Hello everyone, it's lovely to see you all again. Now, it's nearly Christmas and I did promise you a Christmas story. And this is a really special Christmas story. Do you remember when I read the story Dogger to you? Remember that? Well, here we are with a new Dogger story. It's called Dogger's Christmas. Exciting. So let's begin the story. Once there was a boy called Dave. He had a big sister Bella and a little brother called Joe. Joe couldn't walk properly yet, but he could scrabble along the floor, crawling very fast. And Bella was especially good at running and jumping, and she could do cartwheels and stand on her head. She sounds like Molly Joyce. Dave had a very favourite toy. The toy was called Dogger, that's right, who was almost as old as he was. He still took him to bed with him every single night. And there's Dave and Dogger all snuggled up in bed. But things change, and now he was getting interested in all sorts of other toys, like, well, his trains and his spaceship and cars that you could wind up so that they could whiz about really fast all on their own. Exciting. Well, Christmas was coming soon. Dave and Bella helped Mum and Dad to put up paper chains and to decorate the tree. They knew all about it being the birthday of baby Jesus, and how he didn't have a proper bed and had to sleep in a manger and was visited by angels and shepherds and wise men. Dave and Bella were very busy making lists of all the fancy stuff they were hoping to get as presents and posting them up the chimney to Father Christmas. You see Bella thinking very carefully about her list. Bella didn't want any more teddies. Oh, that's a relief. Do you remember? She had loads, didn't she? Because she had 7 already. She was asking for some new trainers and a T-shirt with an Olympic badge on it. And a really good skipping rope because the one she had was rather babyish. Dave wanted lots more track for his train set, some building bricks, a book about wild animals, and a chocolate reindeer. Mum helped him to make his list. Mum took Dave and Bella Christmas shopping. Joe was too young for that, so he stayed at home with Dad. They didn't take Dogger either, just in case he got lost, which was very wise. There's Dogger looking at the window there. Oh, Dave left Dogger propped up on the windowsill, waiting for them to come back. They were gone for a very long time. Well, it takes a long time when you do Christmas shopping, doesn't it? On Christmas Eve, the tree was all alight in the front window, and Dave and Bella had their Christmas stockings ready to hang up. Dave had meant to give Dogger a stocking too, but, well, there was so much excitement going on that he just forgot. It happens, doesn't it? When at last they were cuddled down together, Dave found it very hard to get to sleep. I wonder how many of you are going to be like that. I think lots of you. He knew that Father Christmas would not come until he was asleep, but somehow he kept sitting up and checking the end of bed just to make sure the stocking was easy to see. But in the end, the house was quiet and everybody was sleeping. At last, it was Christmas morning. Dave, Bella and Joe woke up very early to find their stockings. Look, they're full with all their presents. How exciting. The floor around their beds was covered with torn wrapping paper. That's what it's like in our house. And very soon, Mum and Dad were awake, and Dave and Bella gave them their presents, which they had kept secretly hidden. Dave had some lovely sweet-smelling soap for Mum, which Dad had helped him choose, and a bag of chocolate coins for Dad. Oh, I think Mr. Joyce would like chocolate coins. Bella had a little diary for Dad, which he could take into his office, and a book about wild flowers for Mum. After breakfast, Mum and Bella went over to see Jim Baker, who lived on his own with his dog Ruffy. Mum had a box of chocolates for him. There they are. I'm talking to Jim Baker, their neighbour. And Bella had made him a card, and they also had some dog food for Ruffy, who was her special friend. "Well, you see, my son Phil's coming over to see me and bringing the Christmas dinner," Jim said. "Bound to be late, but it'll be great to see him when he does turn up." Meanwhile, Dad, Dave, and Joe had stayed at home with Dad, who was keeping an eye on the Christmas dinner. Dave started to build a super space station with his new building bricks. Oh, I think he's really good at that. And lots of you are brilliant at building things with bricks and things, aren't you? Then Granny and Grandpa arrived, bringing presents, and Christmas had really begun. It was a lovely day. But what was about to happen? At bedtime that night, when Grandpa and Grandma had left, the children were really tired, but very happy. Joe was tucked up into bed. Dave was already fast asleep when Dad carried him up the stairs, and Bella followed soon after. Later that evening, when Dad was cleaning up the Christmas wrapping paper and putting it into a big plastic bag, and Mum was filling the dishwasher, they heard a wail. Dave had woken up and wanted Dogger. But where was he? He wasn't at the end. Hold on. They looked everywhere, but he was nowhere to be found. Oh, they looked under the shelves, they looked in the washing basket. That's a usual place for things to get hidden. Dave cried and cried. He felt so sad that Dogger, his dear old friend, had been forgotten and left out all of the Christmas fun. It took him a long time to get to sleep. Poor old Dave. In the following days, Dave didn't want to play with his new toys. Oh dear. Christmas was no good without Dogger. Mum reminded him that Dogger had been lost before, and he turned up in the end. He was sure to be in the house somewhere. But Dave was not reassured. His misery spread through the whole family. Honestly, no matter how hard they searched, Dogger seemed to have disappeared. Dave began to think that this was the time that he might have lost Dogger forever. You see him looking there, he's so sad, isn't he? Poor old Dave. Dad was doing a lot of clearing up. Dave and Bella stood in the doorway, watching sadly as he tied up the Christmas rubbish bag and took it out to the place where they kept the bins. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Well, the refuse van was already, just check I haven't, no, that was it. The refuse van was already making its way noisily up the street, and the bin men were emptying the brimming bins into the back of it so that all the contents were scrunched up inside. They were nearly at Dave and Bella's house when suddenly Bella had a really clever idea. She decided to have one last look for Dogger. Bella dashed over to the bins, emptied the rubbish all over the path, and began searching through it. And guess what? Yes, out there was Dogger. Oh my goodness. There was a big screwed up piece of wrapping paper, and there beneath it was the tip of a little brown tail. "Dogger!" she shouted. "Dogger!" shouted Dave. Bella pulled him out and held him up high. He was rather dirty. Dave was so pleased. He let out a cry of joy and ran down to the front gate. He took Dogger from her hands and hugged him tight. You see him giving him a big hug there. Oh, well done, Bella. "We thought he was lost," Bella told the bin men, and they all raised a cheer. "Well, well done," they said. And then, of course, Dave and Bella helped Dad to clear up all of the rubbish which had been tipped out and got them all back into the bins. You see that Dave He's holding on very tightly to Dogger. He's not going to let him go now. Phew! Well, that was a near thing, said Dad later, when they were all sitting amongst their presents. Dave was tenderly wiping some dust from Dogger with a piece of tissue paper. He was too happy to speak. He had Dogger back, and that was all that mattered. Let's see the last page. Happy Christmas, Dogger. Oh, that's very sweet. Wow. Well, I hope you all have a lovely Christmas time. I hope you stay safe during the Christmas holidays and have lots of fun as well. And I will see you very soon with another story. Take care. Bye-bye.